few weeks ago, I was joined by a client of mine named Alicia, who set out to climb Kilimanjaro, but not as a lifelong athlete, instead as someone who wanted to see if she could do something extraordinary. She trained on 23 stairs behind a building, put in long hours on the treadmill with a pack on her back, and discovered just how far determination can take you. She's funny, self-deprecating, and you might laugh out loud a time or two as she shares what it really felt like to chase this goal. And now she's back training with me again, this time for the Inca Trail. And the numbers tell the story. By week 5 of Kilimanjaro, she had 62 miles and 17,700 feet under her belt. By week 5 of the Inca Trail, 67 miles and over 25,000 feet. And that's just what happens when you consolidate training into 8 weeks instead of 12, and when experience teaches you how to push yourself. Her journey is about more than summits. It's about confidence, trust, and realizing you can do far more than you think. And now, enjoy my conversation with Alicia. On September 10th, you texted me and you said, did it? It was something for sure. I can't wait to tell you about it. So whatever that evokes, I want you to just tell me what's on your mind. You said it was something for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't want to read into that. I just want you to tell me what the heck was going on in your brain when you sent it.
So definitely interrupt me because I could take the whole hour without any interruption. So there was certainly a difference in how I felt from when I finished the climb immediately after and how I feel now. And I guess it's like, people forget delivering their babies, all the pain and everything. And I remember thinking a couple of things because I have a friend who has summited 6 of the 7 and everything but Everest. And we finished our hike of Kilimanjaro. And I was like, I think Alec is insane. Like, what could he be thinking? And then I thought, and Marcus said to me that he has a lot of clients that start thinking about the next thing they're going to climb. And I was like, I'm going to move into a ranch house. Like, I never want to even climb stairs ever again. So we were all spent. We were just spent. And, now that it's been a month and I've sort of got my head around it, I can parse the experiences into sort of different learning buckets and feelings and things like that.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I'm pretty sure that with my list of questions, we're going to flush out all that information.
Okay.
So you reached out to me in mid-March about climbing Kilimanjaro. So what initially drew you to that particular adventure?
So my husband and I talked about it many, many years ago. And then I sort of just got it in my head that I wanted to do it. And I'm not a uber athlete. In fact, I would say I'm not athletic. And I just felt that it would be kind of cool to be able to do something like that, like a physical accomplishment.
Okay. And going back to your initial communication with me, what was your biggest concern? Is that something you can recall?
Yeah. I mean, I think 2 things, because I reached out to you fairly early, like 6 months before. And I remember you saying yeah, you're a little early to start thinking about seriously training. But I know kind of my level of anxiety, and I needed to just get my head around what it meant to change how I was being physically active. And I reached out to you specifically because, I work out with a trainer 3 times a week. He's fantastic. And I'm, overcoming back issues and shoulders. I'm not young. I've got all the things a 60-year-old person has. And my cardio was mostly the Peloton. And I sort of thought, I bet that's all the wrong muscles, And so I just felt I needed to understand and be ready to do this hike or climb or whatever people call it. I think it's a climb, but it's not technical. So
yeah, we're going to call it a climb. It is a climb.
Okay.
Right. It's not a technical climb. You're right. Yeah. So we worked together for kind of a base phase and a peak phase. You're right. You contacted me early, but I'm getting that more frequently. More frequently, people are reaching out to me, and then I will explain to the listener and a reminder to you because I want to flush out some differences between the base phase and the peak phase. But generally speaking, what I tell people is the base phase, it's a little less intense, less miles, less elevation gain, less intensity. What we're trying to do is build a hiking-centric fitness base. Because like you said, most people are doing the Peloton or something that is not necessarily related. So we want to begin to build the muscles and the fitness related to hiking, but not be so aggressive. We want to kind of see how you respond to that type of training. So anyway, that's the kind of general, base versus peak. Oh, yeah. And the other thing, too, is peak is generally speaking about 12 weeks from the departure, and base is anything prior to that. In our case, we trained about 10 weeks base and we did about 10 weeks peak.
Yeah.
But do you have any comments on what you remember the difference was? Whatever that is, a feeling about it, the intensity, and maybe it's nothing. I'm just curious.
So for me, the base was really like, I knew I was going to have to start getting elevation. Well, how and where? I don't live in an apartment. I can't go up 10 flights of stairs or 20 flights of stairs. And what did that mean? And how was I going to sort of manifest this peak training phase? And then also the gradual shift from the 45-minute hyper fast Peloton out of breath thing to this more deliberate elevation gains at a slow pace, because there's an endurance piece to that. And I needed to get my head around that before I actually did it. Started like the more serious training.
Yeah, and I do recall looking back at my notes, there was an email you sent to me that I'd asked you how you had felt. Maybe it was after a few weeks or so. And you said, Mark, it's not so much an increase in the volume of training. It's just completely different.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you had transitioned less Peloton. And I remember you saying something more about, you're doing more of the treadmill.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to get into some numbers here that, with my listeners, they may, I talk about numbers with some of my past clients in some of these episodes, but I'm going to throw them out to you. And I don't know how much it's going to mean, but it'll be interesting just to talk about it. So in the base phase, you averaged per week 4,627 feet of elevation gain per week. Now, for someone who lives in like Colorado or, let's say in New Hampshire, whatever, where, there's great hiking available, they might understand that and they can get that through just hiking alone. Now, in your particular case, you did that through treadmill, stairs, and some elevation gain with your hikes and walks. So base phase, it was 4,627 feet per week on average and 17 miles per week. Now, in the peak phase, you averaged more than that, about 500 feet more and 3 miles less. So you did let me see. So that was 6. Okay, so it was 5,112 feet of elevation gain and 14 miles a week. Look, I don't want to lose anybody here. But see, what happened was we focused more on elevation gain in the peak phase and less on distance. I don't know if you remember me kind of hammering that, where we really need to emphasize that part of it. Now, we began in March, the end of March, and we ended in June. So it was like 10 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You did a total of, this was in that 10-week period, it did a total of about 205 miles and 55,000 feet of elevation gain.
Mm-hmm.
You did 64% on treadmill, 15% on stairs, and 18% on hiking.
Mm-hmm.
That is a good split for the base phase. But I know I had said to you, we need to get closer to 50% on stairs and hiking and walking, which you successfully did. So you actually did, in the peak phase, you did 56% on treadmill, and then 20% on stairs and 24% hiking and walking. Anyway, lots of numbers, folks. Don't tune out here. Now, let's kind of jump ahead for a second. So what was one thing that surprised you that you were able to do that you attribute to the program? I'm talking about on your trip.
I think the thing that endurance. And I think that's the thing that surprised us the most, all of us. So I was the only woman with a group of 6 men. And everybody was fit. The guys were pretty athletic. Like one ran 5 miles a day. The other they all played sports. We had a 22 and 24-year-old. But there was no like uber duper athlete, like I'm going to run up or whatever. And I think the thing that shocked all of us was just how long each day felt. Though we would start at 7 in the morning and finish by 1:30 too, 1:30 usually, but it just was unrelenting. And I think that the training helped me with that. And I will say that I did not have, I was fatigued, but I didn't have one sore muscle ever. And I think that all the stairs, which I feel like my stairs was just over 50% or stairs and hiking, which was mostly stairs because I can't get elevation hiking here. So I like in my training, that's what I remember the most was just like this going up and down 2 flights of stairs 200 times or whatever. But I really just felt like, rightly so, they were fatigued, but not overly fatigued. And my muscles were appropriately fatigued, if that makes sense. I was just tired.
There's no way to avoid tired, but rightly you hit on something, and that is you want to be over that soreness phase.
Yeah.
You don't want to hit the trailhead and then on the second day and the third day, your muscles are sore.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned that. Now, do you recall like conversing with the other group members? Was there any kind of feedback that they had in their own experiences about, their fatigue or their training or how their muscles felt? I mean, did anything come up?
First of all, they were an amazing group of guys. 5 of them were from Britain and all related in some way. And then this one guy from Maine. You get very personal very fast because we were with a company that was keeping written track of our health and our oxygen levels and all those things. But I will say they all were experiencing what I was experiencing. They did regular, since they were Brits, they played soccer twice a week, but those guys hiked a lot. So they had a lot of that experience. And so those muscles, they hiked a lot. And, a couple of times a week and with some elevation. So they had that similar training and they felt the same thing. The only thing that I wish I had access to, or I had the time to do, was to do more hiking in my training, only because they were more sure-footed than I was, if that makes sense. So sometimes there were like hard, rocky things we had to go down, and where I would pause and sort of do the math of I'm going to put my pole here, my left foot here, and someone's going to take my hand, they could look at it and just go, okay, and just kind of do the math much more quickly than I could. But I couldn't, you do everything slowly, and stairs take a lot of time, and I was training a lot of hours, and I didn't want to forfeit the elevation training for the hiking here. Whereas if I lived in Colorado, I wouldn't have to make that trade-off.
You bring up a good point. There's no question that having hiking experience will provide more confidence in how you navigate the trails, how you step, make those decisions a lot faster.
Yeah.
Do I want to step on the rock, around the rock, over it? How well do I step down? But I want to emphasize that it's not necessary. Look, you had great success.
Yes.
So for those people who don't have any hiking experience, what I don't want them to do is then make the decision, wow, hiking experience is better. So to really optimize my experience, I'm going to have to go hiking. And while that's great if you get the opportunity, the fact is just train really hard to mitigate all of the other issues.
Yeah.
And show up. And if you have a good guiding company, you're going to be good to go.
I had a good guiding company. I mean, I think I made the right choice, right? I think I made the right choice to do the stairs and the treadmill.
Well, it was the only way you were going to get the elevation gain.
It was the only choice. And you definitely, I was worried about that. And you were like, don't worry, it's fine. Just do it on stairs. You've got this. And it's true. And I will say that when I was doing the stairs, instead of like running down the stairs that I do just when I go downstairs in my house or whatever, I was very deliberate about how I went down the stairs. I went down the stairs slowly so those muscles would get engaged. So I did focus on that a little bit, which helped with my footing, right? I was just steadier.
Yep, absolutely. And a note here from an email that you sent me. You said, I am home and struggling to find a place where I don't die of boredom. Yeah. This is related to stairs. I have settled on the bleachers at the high school, but have to get motivated to get my rear end over there. And you did. You totally did, because your numbers reflect it. But any comments on, you've talked a lot about stairs. Anything else You just want to,
I ended up not doing the bleachers because I took a look and I was like, that's not there. Like, I don't know. The measurements were weird. And so I did these stairs in the back of this building in our town. It was like 23 stairs. I knew exactly. And I did that over and over and over again in the heat.
okay, well, people sometimes concerned they don't have access to, a large flights of stairs. And it doesn't matter. I mean, I trained for all of my aggressive stuff on 30 stairs. You did it on 23 stairs.
Yeah. Sometimes in my house, if it was too hot or raining.
Yeah. It is what it is, right? It's a means to an end. Okay, so let's see what we can flesh about some of the other elements of your training. You did a fair amount of treadmill training.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to flesh out about that? Any comments on it? How you think it carried over? Anything you want to say?
Well, I think it was super helpful to have my pack on and it let me sort of work in my boots. I think I was surprised at how hard a 15% incline with a 20-pound pack was and how long it would take me to do a mile. But it was shorter than the mile on Kili for sure, but I think there was sort of psychological training in that too, right? So, and there was absolutely, once I got on that treadmill and started, I think I started with elevation without a pack and then moved to the pack. Like, I remember the first time I got on there without a pack and I was like, uh-oh. This is it's hard. This is hard. And then by the end, I was sort of like, well, it's boring. I mean, I have like headphones and I put it all, I'm throwing everything at the wall to keep me busy for an hour and a half or my mind going. And I was sweating, but I wasn't dying, and
Right.
Right. So it was good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always a means to an end. And, I want people listening to understand that stairs and treadmill they don't replace each other because the stairs, they don't have an incline on it. So you're not going to be able to lengthen your Achilles and your calf. And so you have to do both.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned the pack weight. You consistently, I think it was toward the end, I think, of your base phase. We made a conscious effort to begin adding the pack weight. You then, after that, with all of your activities, you were carrying either 15 or 20-pound pack on
everything.
All of your training. Yeah.
And I will say, and it depends on your company or whatever. So you and I sort of calculated 17 pounds probably was going to be my actual pack weight. And I think that was right on probably. I will say that I got sick on day 2 and on day 3, they said, how about you give us your pack? And I was like, I train with this pack. And they're like, we're not actually asking, give us your pack. And I think they either thought I was sicker than I was, or I didn't realize how sick I was. And so that's when, I started like accepting help. On that day, we had cell service for a split second, and I texted some friends, and one of my friends who had done Kili when she was young, like 23, she was like, I said, I'm sick, and they took my pack, and she was like, why are you even carrying your pack? I did it, and we never carried our pack, and we were 23, right? And then you realize, like, big, strong Fergus, how's that for a British name? He got his pack taken away, too, because he wasn't feeling well, and you start to appreciate the help, but mostly I was carrying it, I had my water, whatever, and I'm glad I trained with it.
Oh, yeah.
Also, then when they took it, it was a huge relief because I was like, oh, wait, like I can do it and I don't feel like it's that much more of a challenge, but it's super helpful, because I wasn't feeling well.
Yeah, I guess you had kind of an acute case of just a little bit of altitude kind of feedback. And then obviously you acclimated.
Yeah, we resolved it right away. Like my company was so good and we sort of looked at what I was taking because I was taking the Diamox and we backed off in case it was that. And then I, added whatever and I was feeling better in less than 24 hours, 12 hours. So.
Okay. And then let's see here. I didn't really work with you much on strength training because you have your trainer that you worked with. In the peak phase, I always incorporate milestone challenges. We're going to talk about that in a second. So generally speaking, for those listening, in a peak phase, I generally weave in a milestone challenge, usually 2 weeks from your departure date, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. But it doesn't always have to be exactly like that. But Alicia, I just wanted to kind of point out that your first milestone challenge, and that's for the listener where we kind of consolidate a lot of your elevation gain and distance all in one day instead of spreading it out throughout the week. Now, for you, we focused less on distance and more on elevation gain. So your first milestone challenge was about 6 weeks out from departure, and you did 3,600 feet of elevation gain. But what you had to do, you had to stack it. And so for those listening, stacking means that you can't just go out and hike and get it done. You have to combine things. So you actually did 2,370 feet on treadmill, 730 on stairs, and 500 feet on just, doing your hikes and walks. So your first one was 3,600. Your fourth milestone challenge was about 3 weeks out, and you did 4,000 feet of elevation gain, which is really stout. And you did that, you split it up basically between treadmill and stairs.
Yeah.
And then your fifth milestone was the peak one. So this was like 2 weeks out from departure. It happened to be 3,600 feet of elevation gain, but you did over 2,000 feet just on stairs alone, which was a good accomplishment. Yeah, I know you're laughing about that.
That was a lot of stairs.
You rose to the occasion when you had to.
Yeah.
And I knew you would. I knew you were going to be a great client from the beginning. And by the way, you exceeded like all expectations. So you exceeded distance and elevation gain every week. I think I wanted you to be somewhere around maybe 3,500 on average per week. Well, of course, you did 4,600 per week in your base phase and 5,100 feet of elevation gain in your peak phase. So you went way over, which is not uncommon for a personality like you. Because if you have a goal, okay, well, it's generally speaking, in your mind, I think you think the more the better.
Yeah, but I made a mistake that one day when I put on the pack and I just did a lot of stairs.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think I remember that. And I don't think I told you. I might have forgot to tell you not to do it with pack weight, to just do stairs without it. I can't remember.
You may have said you probably told me not to do pack weight, and I did it anyway because I seem to remember not following your instructions in the interest of calming my anxiety. And then I was like, well, I can't walk, so I have to take a week off.
Yeah, I can't remember it fully, but just generally speaking, I'm guessing what happened is you were starting stairs and I had said we need to add pack weight. And if I didn't say it, it was an omission that I should have. And that was when you start stairs, you have to see what kind of feedback you get initially without any pack weight.
Right.
How sore are you going to get? How your muscles going to respond to it? Let's see how that goes. Then we add pack weight. Who the heck knows?
So I had a feedback when I did that set of stairs that I ignored is my knees started to hurt. And I remember thinking, well, I probably should stop, like hurt a little bit. And I didn't. So I ignored my own feedback, which is a bad idea, folks.
Well, it worked out and you had plenty of time. Look, it's not.
I had plenty of time.
It's not totally uncommon when someone's training to get some feedback, get a little information here or there. And then with my coaching and so on, we can figure these things out and your body heals.
Right.
And we get back to it with more mindfulness, basically.
Yeah.
So I want to address this, that people are concerned sometimes with interruptions in their training schedule because they're going to travel and they're afraid they're not going to be able to stick exactly to their plan. But you did. I mean, you went to Iceland and you went to Italy. Just explain kind of knowing your goals, how you managed. But hold on a second.
Yes.
I do remember, I think it was when you were going to Iceland or it was Italy. I can't remember. And you had trained really hard and you were at a point where I wanted you to kind of look at it as a recovery type vacation. You've been so consistent. Let your muscles just recover. Do some work, do some hiking.
Yeah.
But don't worry about it. When you come back, you'll actually feel better. Let's talk about all of that in just general.
So Iceland, I think it was in June. And so I think what we had said was, I'm going to be hiking. That was our goal. I was there 6 days. I hiked three, 3.5, some little hikes, but like 3 good ones, real ones. I don't know about elevation game, but there were some good hikes. And Italy, though, you definitely, I had some goals, but you were really good about saying, I'm not worried. Because I was super worried. I was like, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? And you were like, I'm not worried. I'm not worried. I'm not worried. And we had some goals, and I definitely had a couple of like small milestones in there, and I was doing them. But you sent me a good signal, like you're in a good place and you have time. Don't worry about it. And so I was walking every single day. We were all taking a hike, but there was an elevation because we were in Chianti, not in the Alps. And then I did a couple of days with like stairs, and they had a crappy treadmill that I did. So, but you took it back for those 2 weeks intentionally, I believe.
Yeah, and you had been so consistent.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you know you're going to be traveling, we can kind of increase the volume of the work that you do and then use that time to just recover and enjoy and relax. And you did that.
It was perfect.
So I want to bring up kind of snacks and hydrating. I mean, that wasn't something that you were familiar with. Do you have any thoughts or comments on how you worked on that? Maybe some snacks that you liked, anything about hydration?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So hydration, I was on this Facebook page, Kili Hiking or something, very helpful, lots of gear things, and a lot of people with a lot of opinions that maybe shouldn't be giving opinions. But I was really happy that I had my Camel and with a tube. And for me, the constant sipping was how I stay hydrated. I couldn't not drink and then chug water and not drink. So that was really, really helpful. Some at night is a separate discussion, which we can discuss if you want to discuss now hydrating at summer at night, which is, it's just a whole other thing.
Well, you know what? Let's quickly segue into that because something I am going to, hey, let's just hit it now.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, they don't have to be fitness tips, but tips for Kili trekkers. Address the hydration thing you want to talk about and any other tips for Kili trekkers, fitness related or unrelated, whatever.
So some at night, so I loved being able to sip the water, and I don't actually like water. It's a little bit of a problem for me. So I would put a little pouch in, 1 pouch and 2.5 liters is plenty of, it's just a little bit of flavor, and I would sip on that. And then usually the guides had more to refill if you finished it. And, we were all super conscious of staying hydrated because of the altitude. And then on Summit night, I filled the pouch and I insulated my tube, and it froze really fast. And I had anticipated that it would freeze, but I had not anticipated that it would freeze so fast. They had us all fill our Nalgene bottles with water, wrap them in a sock, and they all just went, the guides carried them, and we all drank whatever, whose ever water, whatever. So when we stopped, we would drink from the Nalgene bottles. But there was, I would have preferred to be able to be sipping water the whole way, but it just wasn't an option. So, I really liked having the hydration pack a lot. So that was really good. As far as snacks, you helped me sort of think about things to try. And I think just on the regular days, I really stuck with a more traditional, like a Kind bar or a Cliff bar or, more of that kind of thing. I did have some of the gels. What was the one that you told me? Can't remember what it's called.
If it was a gel, would it have been?
And not a gel. It was like a little gummy cube.
Oh, yeah. Scratch, maybe?
Yes. I really liked those, but that's me.
The Scratch Energy Chews.
Yeah. So I always had a bunch of different things. And then when we were hiking, we would stop and they would give us nuts and juice and, they had things for us as well. So I enjoyed a regular Kind bar or Cliff bar or banana. They sometimes had bananas for us during the regular hike. But on Summit night, it just was impossible. You're not hungry. Your breathing is really labored. It's really cold. The wind's blowing. And so I was just eating the little gummies and I liked it. And I thought I would need ones with caffeine and I didn't. I just would pop those in my mouth and it just gave me enough sugar to kind of keep going.
Okay. Any other tips, whether it was I know you're not a gear expert, but maybe there's something gear related or anything, again, any other.
Yeah, I mean, the regular days weren't. I mean, the guys were in shorts like the first 3 days, and then in long pants. And in the beginning, the first 3 days, just regular hiking pants. Then I had leggings under hiking pants. So during the day, you're not really cold. At night, the minute the sun goes down, it is frigging freezing immediately. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but I loved my boots. I went up a half size and I just hiked I wasn't trading. I had clean socks every day and I had one kind of sock. It was on the thicker end. And then on summit night, I put in a really thin wool sock, but I really made sure that my toes did not feel that I had room because you need blood flow and your toes freeze anyway. And then I had ski gloves with hand warmers inside them.
Okay.
And that was good. And I was really layered up on summit night. And besides my extremities, I was perfectly warm.
How did you stay warm in the tent?
I slept with a hat, and I wish it had been a balaclava because it kept falling off. And we all sort of figured out, it is, I'm pretty hardy and I'm a skier, but it's cold. So what we figured out was that sleeping bags had liners, and we sort of figured out that the liners work best if it can use your body heat. So we'd all kind of go into bed at 8 o'clock at night, and then in all your clothes, because you just can't imagine, stripping down or whatever. And then excuse me for saying this, but you were peeing all the time. The first pee, everybody was going to the pee tent at different times. And then that's when you would sort of strip down, and I slept in leggings and a long wicking t-shirt. And I will tell you that the liner worked. I was warm. I would put my clothes in with me. I wouldn't sleep in them because I wanted my body heat to heat the liner and the sleeping bag, but I would put the clothes in with me so that I could have warm clothes to put on the next morning. But you have to work fast.
Okay. All right. That makes sense. So what do you think? I think I can probably take a guess at this, but I'm just curious. Most beneficial part of your program, what activities do you think contributed most to your success?
Stairs.
Those darn stairs.
Well, stairs and treadmill, but that's kind of what I did,
Yeah.
People say well, what did you do I was just stairs and treadmill. I just think that's huge.
Yeah. It's pretty simple.
My legs look totally different.
Oh, they did. Let's talk about that. What do you mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I just mean that I've just developed different muscles.
Did you like that?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
I did not lose weight on Kilimanjaro, much to my dismay, but a lot of people do. But, they're really focused on feeding you properly and making sure, that you have the right nutrients. And so we all were, we were well fed, and it was very helpful.
Okay. So you were never hungry?
No. Also, altitude sickness, you're never really hungry.
Yeah. You got to make yourself eat.
Yeah. Yeah, you do. Absolutely.
Any anecdotes about the trip, whether it was on summit day, how you performed relative to the other travelers there that you were proud of? I don't know.
Just one thing, a couple things. Mistake I made on summit night was that I did not have a mantra, a song in my head, whatever. And I was not mentally prepared. And we started at 1 a.m, and the wind was blowing, and it was slow, and it was cold. And all I could think was oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. I'm so cold. This really sucks. I'm never going to make it. And that was my mantra, a really bad one, right? I don't want to have headphones. I wanted to be totally present, and I wanted to be present for the other people because I wanted to have, talk to people and all these things during the whole trip. So I didn't have music with me, but I certainly should have put a song in my own head because I had the wrong earworm, man. It was bad. And then I think I blanked out. Someone asked me today, so then when the sun came up, what happened? I'm I don't really remember. It just became, people had left earlier and you'd see their headlamps. And I was I'm pretty sure I'm climbing Everest and not Kilimanjaro because that is really far away and I'm never going to get there, So that's the one thing, like get yourself in the right mental place. It's going to be fine, mostly, for most everybody. Just get your head around it. And the other thing is, I'm not someone that asks for help or accepts help. And so it started with like learning how to accept help and then being able to ask for it. And there's something called the kissing wall on Kilimanjaro, and they call it that because you have to, like if you fall backwards, it's not good. And it's this tiny little ledge. And this whole part of the day, it was a climb, and I'm not afraid of that. But I had worked myself up to be a little bit afraid of the kissing wall. And I looked, I was always like first or second behind the lead guide. And I was like, Sam, is this a kissing wall? He goes, yep. And he just scurried across. And I don't know, whatever it is, it was enough. It was probably 7 feet of wall or 6 feet of wall. I thought it was going to be much longer. And he just put out his hand and helped me across. And I was like I should do that more often, Hey, I needed the help. I took it and it was fine. And I'm not less of a person or less strong. And by the way, everybody got help. The 22-year-old athlete got help, So I think that was something else that I learned.
Okay.
And, you're with people, like I was with people I didn't know. And it was just a very special experience. And you need to be present for that too.
Okay, very cool. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot, okay?
Okay.
So would you recommend others work with me to accomplish any of their bucket list hikes and climbs? And if so, why?
Yeah, 100%, because I didn't really, like I said, I was fit, right? And I probably could have convinced myself that maybe I could do it myself, but I think there's two pieces. One, I didn't really have an understanding of what muscles I needed to develop and what kind of elevation I needed to do to get ready. And I really felt ready. Like I was not scared of it. Like I knew I could do it and I was ready. And I think that was super important. And you really helped me. You really guided me so well. And even things like choose, like I was like, I don't know what my snacks should be, or for God's sakes, I'd never slept in a tent, You looked at my pack, like you need to do this with your thing, whatever. It was so helpful in so many ways. And I didn't know what I was up against. And I think you really did a good job of methodically guiding me through and keeping me calm because I'm a super anxious person. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I would, I'm thinking about what my next thing is going to be, and I will be calling you. If you have a suggestion, what do you think?
Sure. Well, I mean, it depends. International, domestic.
I know.
Look, I think, I don't know. I just think a rim to rim is really cool. Rim to rim in a day.
Jeez.
Oh,
That's
the thing. I already know you could do that. You know what I mean?
Really?
Oh, yeah. I know you can do it. Mm-hmm.
All right. Maybe that's it then.
Yeah, I think so. Again, it's quick. So typically you'll fly out. So you'll fly to Phoenix, and then you'll drive to Flagstaff. So I recommend this guy named Will Burkhart. You'll fly to Phoenix and you'll stay that night.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you'll get picked up at the airport. You'll drive to Flagstaff. Everyone stays at an Airbnb. Okay. And then you get up, really early. You drive to the canyon, and it just depends, I guess, but you might arrive like 4 a.m. And you start your descent, and you go down and across and back up on the other side. And then the shuttle comes and picks you up. It's astonishingly just rewarding. And it's such a bonding experience, which you've already had that. So maybe it's something you do with some of your friends or family or something like that. I have no idea.
Sounds awful.
It's not. It's not. Well, here, look, it's hard like anything.
How long does it take?
I don't know. The last 2 groups. So I went with one group recently, and it took them like 11 hours. And then a couple of people I trained that went with Will the following weekend or 2 weekends after that. I can't remember. Might have taken them 12? Might have took them 12 hours. Oh, I know you could do it. And it's gorgeous. It's beautiful. And yes, at the end, it's hard. It's not easy for anybody.
Yeah.
Not a single person. Yeah. But that doesn't matter. Who cares if it's difficult?
Yeah.
It is what it is,
Yeah.
When you're done, you're done. And it's like, this one gal, at the very end, she was, crying. And I think it was less that she was tired. She was just so proud of herself.
Yeah. Well, we all were
Yeah.
crying at the top, I will say, just in case anyone else is doing Kili, I had help coming down, surprisingly. It just was there was a lot of scree and a lot of sand, like lava sand. And I just was exhausted. And so two guides took one on each side and just kept me secure, in this one section for like an hour. I had someone helping me down.
Well, if you hadn't done all those stairs, they would have had to actually carry you. At least you were able to walk down. And again,
Yeah.
the stairs and your strength training were the biggest
Yeah.
contributors to your ability to at least, be able to,
Yeah.
weight bear on the way down instead of being carried out. So
Yeah, no, and honestly, that it's not like there is no shame in that. And it wasn't like I was weak and my muscles were, I was just tired and not sure footed enough to have confidence. I'm sure it would have been fine, but I was not feeling confident. And so, it happens. It's okay.
and you accomplished your goal and you were going to get down one way or the other.
Yeah. And it was, an hour of a 10-hour descent.
Right. And you know what? I'll tell you what, kind of looking back, with your trainer, if you didn't have the trainer, I would have probably been really aggressive with balance training.
Yeah.
And maybe you did that with your trainer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Really utilizing certain modalities like a Bosu ball and a balance pad. And that could have helped with sure-footedness a little bit.
And I think that's where the guys were more skilled than I was. Like they knew how to go down that scree. They just had done it and they were sure-footed. And it was like a technical thing.
Yeah.
Like I just was not versed in that.
Right. You're right. It's different. If you haven't done it before,
Yeah.
you'd have a little anxiety. But anyway, all righty. Well, I am so grateful that you gave me the chance to work with you. You were a lot of fun. You were a fun client to work with.
Oh, thanks.
You were easy to work with, and you exceeded. I guess the most challenging thing was just kind of reining in your, just so that you wouldn't overdo it.
Yeah, well, the thing I think that was so helpful for me was that, reining in, and the word you might want to say is enthusiasm. It's not, it's anxiety, right? Which is why I was wanting to sort of, do more because I was nervous. And you were wonderful about reining me in and keeping me calm and having me understand that it's a process and it'll work and I just have to trust it. So thank you so much. It was great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't had you helping me.
Well, I am flattered, and I will look forward to chatting with you again because I'm sure we'll stay in touch. And for your next adventure, let's talk about rim to rim at some point. I think that would be great.
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea.
Alrighty. All right. It's great to see you. Thanks for your time. Okay.
All right, thanks.
Bye.